The night they first crossed paths, the universe hesitated. Rain had been falling for hours, the kind that turned the city into a living mirror, neon lights bleeding into puddles, reflections trembling like unsure memories. The air smelled of wet concrete and destiny waiting to be touched. Wang, Yibo, stood beneath a flickering street lamp, helmet tucked under his arm, leather jacket soaked through. He hadn't planned to stop here. He never did. His life was motion, speed, engines screaming, seconds racing ahead of him. Stillness was not his language. And yet, something had pulled him off the road. Across the street, beneath the narrow awning of a closed bookstore, YiZhan clutched a worn notebook to his chest. His breath fogged the air as he watched the rain fall, each drop a quiet punctuation mark to thoughts he never spoke aloud. He was waiting for the storm to pass, straight into someone. Sorry. That voice. He looked up. YiZhan stood there, holding a microphone, eyes wide with the same shock that mirrored his own. For a heartbeat, the noise faded. The crowd became distant thunder. You, Yibo said quietly. You? YiZhan echoed, then laughed under his breath. I was wondering if I imagined you. Yibo smirked. I didn't. Silence stretched, heavy but not uncomfortable. Charged. You're performing tonight? YiZhan asked. Yeah, Yibo replied. You? Singing. After the second set, Yibo nodded slowly. Good luck. YiZhan smiled. You too. They walked past each other, but this time both turned around at the same moment. Their eyes met again. Something unspoken passed between them. This was not coincidence. This was convergence. From that night on, they kept running into each other, too often to dismiss, too perfectly timed to ignore. At rehearsals, in elevators, in quiet hallways where the echoes of their footsteps seemed to align. Each meeting peeled back another layer. Yibo discovered that YiZhan listened like every word mattered. That he noticed things, small changes in tone, quiet hesitations others missed. That he carried gentleness like armor, not weakness. YiZhan discovered that beneath Yibo's cool exterior lived intensity, loyalty, and a loneliness that hummed just beneath the surface. That when Yibo focused on something, or someone, the world ceased to exist. They talked between schedules, shared meals at odd hours, laughed over burnt coffee and late-night snacks. Sometimes they sat in silence, comfortable, connected by something deeper than conversation. And slowly, dangerously, their worlds began to overlap. One night, after rehearsals stretched past midnight, they ended up on the rooftop of the building. The city sprawled beneath them, alive and breathing. YiZhan leaned against the railing, notebook in hand. Do you ever feel like you're moving so fast, you'll miss the important parts? Yibo looked out at the skyline. I feel like if I stop, I'll fall apart. YiZhan turned to him. Maybe some things are meant to catch you when you stop. Yibo met his gaze. For once, he didn't look away. The wind carried the scent of rain again. I don't believe in fate, Yibo said. YiZhan smiled softly. You don't have to. It believes in you. Something shifted. The space between them felt fragile, like glass about to crack or transform. Then footsteps echoed behind them. Reality returned. They stepped apart. Because destiny, as generous as it is never simple. Rumors began to circulate. Schedules tightened. Management frowned. Smiles became guarded in public. Distance crept in where closeness once lived. They stopped meeting by accident. Stopped talking late into the night. Stopped reaching out. And the absence hurt more than either expected. One evening, weeks later, Yibo stood alone in the same rain-soaked street where it had all begun. The street lamp flickered again, stubborn and familiar. He didn't know why he came back. He just knew he couldn't breathe anywhere else. Then, Yibo! He turned. YiZhan stood there, rain dotting his hair, eyes filled with everything left unsaid. I tried to stay away, YiZhan admitted. But some paths curve back no matter how far you walk. Yibo swallowed. I'm not good at slowing down. I'm not asking you to, YiZhan said. Just don't run away. The rain fell harder. Yibo stepped forward. Then another. This time, when their hands touched, neither pulled away. The world didn't end. It began. Because some souls don't just meet. They recognize each other. Across storms. Across stages. Across lifetimes. And once they do, there is no erasing the mark they leave behind. Two souls, destined not by chance, but by choice, by courage, by the quiet, undeniable pull of something eternal. And in that rain-soaked street, beneath a flickering light, fate finally smiled because what it had spent lifetimes arranging had finally found its moment. The city did not sleep that night. Even after the rain faded into mist, the streets continued to glow, as if the pavement itself remembered what had happened beneath the flickering street lamp. Wang Yibo rode through the night, engine humming beneath him, the wind cutting through his jacket, but no matter how fast he went, he couldn't outrun the image etched into his mind. Xiaozhan's eyes, calm, curious, familiar in a way that made no sense. He told himself it was nothing, a coincidence, a stranger in the rain, but the road ahead blurred, and for the first time in years, speed failed to quiet his thoughts. Miles away, Xiaozhan sat at his desk, notebook open but untouched. The window was cracked open, letting the cool night air slip in. He stared at the empty page, pen hovering, waiting for words that refused to come. Instead, memories poured in uninvited. The street lamp, the rain, the man who looked like motion frozen into human form. Xiaozhan pressed the pen to the paper, finally writing. Not lyrics, not poetry, but a single line. Some meanings feel like echoes. He leaned back, exhaling slowly. He didn't know why that moment mattered so much. He only knew it did. Fate, however, had no intention of leaving things unfinished. Their second encounter arrived disguised as chaos. The rehearsal hall buzzed with movement, dancers stretching, stylists shouting instructions, staff rushing back and forth with clipboards and headsets. Wang Yibo walked in, expression unreadable, headphones on, already sinking into the rhythm of preparation. Then he saw him. Xiaozhan stood near the mirrors, laughing softly as a stylist adjusted his mic pack. The sound hit Yibo like a sudden drop in altitude. His chest tightened, breath catching before he could stop it. This time, there was no rain, no street lamp, no excuse, just reality standing a few feet away. Xiaozhan felt it before he saw him, the shift in the air, the pull at the edges of his awareness. He turned, and their eyes locked again. The room seemed to tilt. Yibo took off his headphones. "You're here." Xiaozhan smiled, slower this time, like he was testing the shape of it. "Looks like it." They stood there, surrounded by noise yet strangely isolated, as if an invisible boundary had formed around them. "So," Xiaozhan said lightly, breaking the tension, "you disappear as fast as you appear." Yibo huffed a quiet laugh. "I could say the same." A beat passed. Then Yibo nodded toward the mirrors. "You sing like you're telling secrets." Xiaozhan blinked, surprised. "You noticed?" "I noticed things," Yibo replied, then looked away as if realizing he'd revealed too much. Xiaozhan's smile deepened, not teasing, not shy. Understanding. From that moment on, something shifted. They didn't cling to each other, didn't rush. Instead, they orbited, circling closer with every shared space, every accidental glance, every conversation cut short by responsibility. They began to learn each other in fragments. Xiaozhan learned that Yibo drank his coffee black and untouched until it went cold, that he stretched his fingers before dancing like a ritual, that silence never meant indifference, it meant focus. Yibo learned that Xiaozhan hummed when he was nervous, that he wrote in the margins of his notebook when ideas struck, that his laughter came easily, but his sadness hid quietly behind kindness. Late one evening, rehearsal ended earlier than expected. The building emptied slowly, footsteps echoing down long corridors. They found themselves walking out together. No managers, no cameras, no audience, just them. "You ever feel like you're walking parallel to someone's life?" Xiaozhan asked suddenly. "Close enough to feel it, but never touching." Yibo considered the question. What if touching changes everything? Xiaozhan glanced at him. Maybe some things are meant to be changed. They stopped at the entrance, the night wrapping around them like a secret. Yibo hesitated. Then, "Do you want to get something to eat?" Xiaozhan smiled. "I thought you'd never ask." They ended up at a small, nearly empty diner tucked between tall buildings. Neon lights buzzed overhead, casting soft reflections across the table. They talked, not about fame, not about expectations, about childhood dreams, about fears they never said aloud, about the strange pressure of being seen but not known. At one point, YiZhan laughed so hard he had to cover his mouth. Yibo watched him, something warm unfolding in his chest, something dangerously close to peace. When they stepped back outside, the sky had begun to lighten just slightly at the edges. Morning was coming. Reality, too. In the days that followed, whispers followed them. Schedules overlapped less. Eyes watched more closely. Conversations shortened. The world reminded them, quietly but firmly, of boundaries. YiZhan felt it first. The subtle distancing, the careful glances, the pauses before speaking. One afternoon, he found Yibo alone in a practice room, music playing softly. "Are we doing something wrong?" YiZhan asked. Yibo stopped moving. "I don't know," he admitted, "but it feels like they're afraid of something." YiZhan's voice was gentle. "Are you?" Yibo turned, eyes sharp but honest. "I don't know how to want something slowly." YiZhan stepped closer. "Then don't run. Just stand." Their hands brushed again. This time, the contact lingered. The air vibrated with unspoken truths. But fate, relentless as ever, demanded patience. A sudden change in schedules. Different cities. Different times. Distance returned. Weeks passed. Yet every song YiZhan sang carried an echo of Yibo's presence. Every stage Yibo stepped onto felt slightly off balance, like something essential was missing. Until one night, rain returned. The same street. The same flickering lamp. Yibo stood there, heart pounding, unsure if this was madness or instinct. Then footsteps. YiZhan emerged from the mist, breath hitching when he saw him. "You came back," YiZhan said softly. "I think I was always coming back," Yibo replied. They stood beneath the light, rain falling like a benediction. Two souls, no longer pretending this was coincidence. Destiny doesn't shout. It whispers, again and again, until you listen. And in that quiet, rain-soaked moment, both of them finally did. If you enjoyed this story and want part 2, a deeper emotional twist, or a dramatic turning point, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel.